So now we have the B team, and I think this is definitely a great way to characterize Bernie, Beto, and Biden, the three front runners on the Democratic Party for the presidential 2020 election. And we're seeing a lot of mainstream media talk about how it's so horrible. This article from The Guardian, there's another article by the Huffington Post, there's a whole bunch of them talking about how it's so horrible that how dare white men be represented so much in something that is supposed to be diverse, and this is a horrible situation. Well, me and Jason have a different take. These three individuals are horrible, but not because of their race, not because of their gender, not because of this larger divide and conquer agenda that they have against you. They're horrible for all the other reasons. And just with this latest example of this whole Russian collusion hoax being finally exposed, they're even more horrible with their responses to it, which are absolutely insane. I mean, should we just go into it? Should we just talk about what Beto said with the response of this Russian collusion, which is kind of crazy?
Yeah, it absolutely is crazy, Luke, and we are going to get into this video. So I want to make this clear. Guys, it is March 24th. The Mueller report has been submitted. The majority of the media are acknowledging that there has been no Russian collusion, as there will be no further indictments. But don't worry, Robert Beto O'Rourke will tell you otherwise.
I'll tell you what I see from my perspective. You have a president who, in my opinion, beyond the shadow of a doubt, sought to, however ham-handedly, collude with the Russian government, a foreign power, to undermine and influence our elections.
What? March 24th. March 24th. Undoubtedly. Without question, Luke. Undoubtedly, without question, not colluded with Russians, not a private group, with the Russian government to win the election. My God. And this guy got $6.1 million in a day to run. This guy. You got nothing for me?
I got nothing. I'm shocked. I got nothing else to say. Did he say anything else? Is there anything else he says on here? I'm still looking at the clip here. I mean, did he match that up with like please clap or something? Or is this it?
The sanctity of the ballot box, the ability for each and every single one of us to make informed decisions about those who seek to represent us.
The sanctity of the ballot box.
Decision. He's talking about an informed decision. The report came out. There's no indictments. There's no Russian collusion. What are you talking about? Absolutely insane. Make an informed decision. Why don't you make an informed decision? Sit down and actually look at the facts of the case here and be a rational human being that talks about the reality of a situation and facts instead of your own personal hysteria that is absolutely unproven. And he's still going on with this lie. I mean, come on. This is absolutely insane.
The sanctity of the ballot box, bro.
I'm sitting here in shock. I haven't seen that clip yet. That's why I was sitting there in shock.
The sanctity of the ballot box. Remember, in the very beginning when they were talking about Russian interference or meddling in the election, or they didn't even say that. They said Russia hacked the election. And then people were like, oh my God, they've hacked the ballot boxes. Well, no, they weren't Diebold. No, they weren't one of the other private corporations that's been caught rigging elections. No. In fact, none of that happened. But the sanctity of the ballot box. Let's continue with Mr. O'Rourke.
And hold positions of public trust. It is beyond the shadow of a doubt that once in office, the President of the United States sought to obstruct justice first by firing the principal investigator into what had happened in the 2016 election.
Let me just stop it. There's talking point number one after the failed Russian collusion narrative. It's right there. He went from one to the next. He said, obstruction of justice. Folks, I've been telling you for weeks. That is the pivot. That is the plan. Obstruction of justice. Now he's going to give you the examples. He got rid of Comey. He got rid of Comey, Luke.
Again, even Vox is saying there was no obstruction. Vox, of all people. Let's just go on. Let's keep going.
And by the way, guys, he's saying Vox, V-O-X, not Fox News. We know that Fox has been the only one to actually question the Russian collusion. But let's continue with Mr. O'Rourke.
And then, in the light of day, tweeting at his Attorney General to stop the Russia investigation. If that is not enough, do not take
it wasn't
my
stopped.
Word, take conservative columnist George Will's word for it. If you're wondering about collusion, And when you saw the President of the United States standing next to the leader of Russia on that stage in Helsinki, Finland, defending him and taking his word for it against our own intelligence community,
who happened to be proven wrong with the Mueller report. The intelligence community of James Clapper and John Brennan that openly lied to us about how we were being spied on as American citizens on a daily basis through all of our devices. You're right, we didn't take their word for it. And then the hackneyed report that just came out by one of your other establishment FBI figures also couldn't prove that, Mr. Beto.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
Jesus Christmas.
You brought up such a good point here. They lied to us on so many times. They're like, we're not spying on you. We're not spying on you. No, don't worry. And then another time they're like, oh, yes, totally rushed to collusion. How many times did mainstream media run with fake stories, whether it was the Prague story or the dossier story that was absolutely unfounded and was based on intelligence officials, unnamed sources by the mainstream media that just kept running headlines that were not true, and just had absolute egg on their face. Absolute madness. Is there more, or should we just get right into poor old bend over for Hillary, Bernie Sanders?
I'm thinking we're going to go to the burn dog. He's got that very relatable San Diego Padres cap because, you know, he's such a sports fan, Luke, and he's always wearing a baseball cap because he's your everyman. He's the everyman of socialism. Bernie had some responses for the Russia report being finished and applied to the Attorney General. Let's hear what Bernie had to say.
Today submitted his investigative report to the Attorney General. I don't know what's in the report. Nobody does. I do know, however,
there's no indictments.
Wound up indicting 34 people, including 6 Trump campaign officials.
Okay, I want to bring this up because this is an important talking point. He's talking about 34 people indicted. Most of the people were indicted for, of course, charges not related to Russian collusion. They were charged for tax evasion. They were charged for lying. And I think the biggest story of this case has to be what happened to Jerome Corsi, who, again, was tripped up on his testimony, tripped up on what he was said. He was, again, offered a plea deal for jail time, right? Jerome Corsi. He denied that plea deal. Now, all the charges against him are dropped. If there was legitimate charges against him, why isn't he being charged right now? And because he didn't take the plea deal like other people, he's been charged, which shows you everything you need to know about this entire case and how it's just been a weapon politically and literally grasping at the straws to try to get someone in jail. And a lot of the people are in jail for basic run-of-the-mill white-collar corruption, not paying taxes and making misstatements, mistruths, supposedly lying to the FBI. This is what happened with Jerome Corsi. He didn't go with the plea deal. He's off. He's free. He's not indicted. He would have been if he would have taken that plea deal. Shows you everything you need to know about this case. Let's keep going.
Hey, wait, hold on, Luke. I also want to make a point that 20 of those people are also Russians that will never go to trial, that will never go to court, that can be accused carte blanche and said anything about these quote-unquote Russian agents because they're never going to be brought here. They're never going to be extradited. There's never going to be a trial. Remember, these are the same people that tried to tell us that Russian agents were in fact Guccifer 2.0 with zero evidence of that. I just want to point that out. What else you got to say, Bernie?
And I also know that it is absolutely imperative that the Trump administration make that report public as soon as possible.
I agree. I think they will.
Yeah.
I think I think the only redactions that you're going to see are the type of redactions that have high-level figures on both ends that they don't want to reveal sources. And it won't be. I think Trump would honestly probably let 95% of this go. I think we're going to see a report with maybe 10% redacted, so another 5%. I don't know how you feel about that, Luke.
We're going to see what Trump does. He has publicly said, let's make the report public, send it out to everyone, let the American people see it. It's right now in the Attorney General's hands. We're hearing rumors that it could be released any moment. The Attorney General could take weeks if he wants with this information. I think Trump is going to figuratively take a victory lap for a little bit around this information, and then let more people give them more rope to hang themselves, and then release it, I hope. But if he doesn't, this is going to be a lot of eggs on his face, and he's going to be called out for it by a lot of people, including us, if he doesn't. Because again, this information is public. The fact, again, is the bigger important aspect here. There's no indictments. If there's no indictments, all the other indictments are, again, just silly, to say the least. This doesn't prove anything. And I think everyone who has just common sense, who's actually looking at this information, knows that, except the three front runners for the Democratic presidential election. Let's keep it going.
Well, that was the end of the Bernie clip. So what we have here is, for the crescendo, this is not Biden's response, but we wanted to remind everybody that Biden also bought into the Russian propaganda. Here he talks about the bromance between Trump and Putin. Yes, it's such a bromance. We see military strikes in Syria that collide with the interests of Russia. We see a lot of anti-Russia policy, but, the bromance. And then he also, Luke, in this less than 1 minute clip, goes after Trump for having a diplomatic conversation with Putin in Helsinki, which at the time we also did a video on. So let's hear what Mr. Biden has to say.
He said, did you see what Trump said? So I stopped in Washington from Australia and spent 2 days in the Balkan states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. You know what they wanted me to do? They wanted to make a nationwide address, a Baltic-wide address with all three presidents standing with me to reassure them that we were good on our word. That the NATO alliance, no, I'm not looking to be clapped. This is to let you know how much damage is already being done by this continued romance with Putin.
Oh.
What did he say last night? Think about this and what it really means to our national security. Last night, when Hillary pointed out,
can we cut off the lunatic?
Of 17.
Can we cut him off? He's absolutely insane. His administration, the Barack Obama administration, which he was the vice president of, did far less than what Donald Trump is doing against Russia. Donald Trump has increased military preparedness against a conflict with Russia in Europe 91%. $6.5 billion Donald Trump has spent on just preparing the U.S. military in Europe for a possible conflict with Russia. Trump also publicly wants more funding for NATO, wants more funding for the military-industrial complex, and he has even sent anti-tank missiles and other lethal weapons to Ukraine, one of the biggest battlegrounds for Russia right now, where, again, it's being directly challenged by the United States, like it also has been in Syria, where now U.S. troops are staying, where now the United States wants Israel to have the Golan Heights region against, of course, Russia's top ally in the region, Syria, who, of course, they were protecting. They have been at odds with each other more than ever geopolitically. And if you look at the wider picture as far as foreign policy, there hasn't been a tougher president against Russia ever since the Cold War. That's been not just my talking point, a talking point of many geopolitical foreign policy experts that are actually seeing what is happening there. The guy has Bolton, madman Bolton, on his side, literally calling for war against all of the top Russian allies. And again, what this really is just criminalizing diplomacy, and it ultimately, what Biden is, he and all the other proponents of this, they're the biggest threat to national security, because instead of having a better relationship, a greater geopolitical relationship that could actually work in our favor, especially with China in the picture here, no, we don't have that. We just have fear-mongering. We have, of course, trying to push the general public towards a more favorable stance of war with that country instead of diplomacy, and that, to me, is the big crime here that needs to be exposed. That's my take on it. What do you say, Jason?
No, I absolutely agree, Luke. I think that we have to really look beyond all the propaganda that we've been absorbing over the last 2+ years about this and call out these nonsense hacks that are trying to run for the presidency. Listen, Bernie, we know you're spineless. Beto, we know you're bought and paid for, and you're the new corporate response cool guy that we're supposed to be voting for. And Biden, you're an old dinosaur that nobody trusts. Guys, if you like what we do here, we do 4 videos a day, 3 on the backup, 1 on the main. Please smash that thumbs up button. Hit the notifications bell or you will not see this in the feed. but most importantly, be the change you want to see in the world.